Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, ewan sa sinangalan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Upang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nanagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mo bangaw, ay hinatang tulakawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iinit, ang ituwing at karoon niya kailan ang ay matitigil. Luman ang araw ng walang pagsinta, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya na pagkay mga api, at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 5th webinar and 12th Midyear Pafte Convention. For this midyear, our theme is innovation, where collaboration, creativity, and technology meet. In Pafte, we always start with an opening prayer for guidance throughout our webinars. To lead us in the opening prayer is the Director of the National Board, Dr. Ethel D. Abao. The prayer will be followed by the singing of the Pafte hymn.
Let's pause for some moments and feel God's presence. Dear Heavenly Father, our Dios, the divine, infinite, omnipotent, and supreme, you gifted us all present today with a tremendous share of your blessings on us, the academicians. Thank you most sincerely. In our unceasing pursuit toward teaching excellence, help us to be ever conscious that amid the myriad challenges and responsibilities brought about by the massive advancement of science and technology, we shall remain steadfast in our mission as servant teachers and educators in a way we make teaching and learning relevant, flexible, and sustainable in a humanistic society. As we embrace this reality, bestow upon us the power to give credence to the dynamism of education. As time and matter change, help us through this prestigious organization of the Philippine Association for Teachers and Educators, or PAFTE, to be proactive in ensuring that education revolves around and gives premium on innovation, where collaboration, creativity, and technology meet. May this centerpiece of the 12th Midyear Pafte Convention serve as a potent avenue to be ever responsive to the needs of our stakeholders. In this meaningful journey of teaching, which we are all gratefully endowed with, may we continue to implore for your guidance that as one people, one world, you sustain the strength of our core as teachers and educators, being catalysts of social transformation. This we offer to you for your greater glory. Amen.
The Pafte Spirit spreads over the land. The Pafte Spirit, we hail instead. We hail this with pride. Pafte far and wide, good tormentors word. We'll always support the Pafte Spirit we keep in our hearts. The Pafte Spirit the lark. We hail this with pride, Pafte far and wide. Group for Lanter's work, we'll always support. So come and join the band of Pafte all and young. Educators with its stand, molders of the teaching plan. Hail, O Pafte, hail. So come and join the band of Pafte all and young. Educators with its stand, molders of the teaching plan. Hail, O Pafte, hail. So walk and march, let's sing and shout, and hail Pafte's work throughout the land. So walk and march, let's sing and shout, and hail Pafte's work throughout the land.
Announcement on attendance and evaluation. May I inform all participants that PAFTE has prepared attendance and evaluation forms for the duration of the webinar. Please fill out the attendance form by opening the link that will be provided through the chat box. PRC requires one attendance form only in a day. Hence, we only have one attendance form to fill out today, day 1, and another attendance form tomorrow, day 2. For day 1, indicate time in as 8:30 a.m. and time out as 5:45 or 5:40 p.m. The professional code is 4,000 and the earned CPD is 15. We trust that we know that it is everyone's responsibility to attend and listen attentively throughout the sessions. Please check the chat box for the evaluation link also. Evaluation form link will be available on the second day. Filling out the attendance form and answering the evaluation and assessment forms is a requirement for the issuance of your certificates. Thank you. To give the welcome remarks, statement of purpose, and to introduce the keynote speaker is our well-loved PAFTE President, Dr. Brenda B. Corpus.
Our esteemed keynote speaker and resource speakers in this PAFTE Midyear Convention, our ever-supportive advisors, our national and regional PAFTE officers who work very hard and smart, our PAFTE members and participants from all over, a hearty welcome to this 12th Midyear PAFTE Convention with the theme, Innovation, where collaboration, creativity, and technology meet. Dear friends, you will agree with me when I say to survive and to function and to live happily in this VUCA world, innovation is not an option. It is a necessity. In this convention, we expect our 3H, heads, hearts, and hands, to be set on fire as we listen to our experts to become more collaborative and creative with the use of technology to the maximum and to the optimum. We hope that we get infected with a positive virus of innovation, as that is the only way to survival. The great educator John Dewey said more than 100 years ago, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. And evidence that our expectations are met in this convention is that at the end of this convention, you will be able to answer the following specific questions as will be projected on screen. Please do this heartily and punctually, as that is the only tangible and immediate way of knowing how well PAFTE has succeeded to meet its convention intended learning outcomes. Once more, a warm welcome to one and all. Allow me to introduce our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker is President's Chair Professor of Education, Linguistics and Language Education, and the Director of the National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University of Singapore. As a NIE Director, she leads faculty and staff towards achieving NIE's vision of leading the future of education and carrying out the mission of inspiring, learning, transforming, teaching, and advancing research. She leads in building an NIE culture that values and nurtures people to achieve professional growth and excellence, and works with the Ministry of Education of Singapore to support the country's aspirations for teachers, school leaders, students, and schools. She obtained her Doctor of Philosophy in Linguistics at Lancaster University and completed her Master of Arts in Applied English Linguistics at the University of Birmingham on the United Kingdom government's Chevening Scholarship. She received her Bachelor of Arts in English and Diploma in Education from the University of Malaya, and is an alumna of the CIMEO Regional Language Center. She is an applied linguist of high international standing and impact, known particularly within the domain of second language acquisition, development, and use. Our keynote speaker's portfolio of scholarly work is international and diverse, consisting of over 250 publications and presentations, mainly in the form of refereed journal papers, peer-reviewed international books and book chapters, and keynote speeches, lectures, seminars, panel discussions, and workshops. Her publications are important references in universities around the world. She has received service awards, one of which is a 25-year-long service award at Nanyang Technological University. She also received 2 awards for excellence in teaching from NIE. My dear friends in PAFTE, I am honored to present to you our keynote speaker in today's Midyear PAFTE Convention, the professor, the researcher, the multi-awarded director of the National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, Professor Christine Go Chuen Meng.
Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. So I will look for my slides, share my slides, and I will get on with the presentation. Okay, allow me to share my slides.
Yes, Professor, you can just override it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I share my slides now? Yes.
Yeah, kindly override. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much for the very warm welcome, Dr. Branda. It is really great, and it's a great honor for myself and also for Singapore to be invited to this really illustrious association with so many members all across the country. Thank you so much, and I hope that I'll be able to share some insights about education, teaching and learning. But first of all, I want to bring you very warm greetings from Singapore, from NIE Singapore. And you can see some of my colleagues here. This was a photo we took a couple of years ago before the pandemic, where we celebrated our National Day. So warm greetings from NIE Singapore to all of you members of PAFTA, and thank you once again for having me. So the title for my presentation today is, let's see. The title for my presentation is Education and Learning in the Age of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, What Really Matters. Now, you have a fantastic theme for today's conference, which is innovation, where collaboration, creativity, and technologies meet. And you have really summed up the spirit of the time, the important things that are happening, and how teachers and educators must respond to it. So I'm hoping that in my speech, I can provide a bigger context for you to situate your discussion for education, teaching and learning in the Philippines. And that's why I have decided to touch on the fourth industrial revolution, which is here with us. Whichever name we call it, we experience a lot of the impact of the fourth industrial revolution today on a personal level and also at a national level and in many countries. So I have a few questions that I would like to address. Sorry. Okay, hang on. Let's go back to my slides. Yeah. Okay, so these are my three questions. What is the global landscape for education now and for the foreseeable future? And how is the fourth industrial revolution changing education and learning? And why and how should educators and teachers rethink learning for ourselves and for our students? So I will start with the first question because it provides us with the context of where we are right now about education emphasis around the world. Now, in our recent survey of global trends done by my colleagues in NIE, these are some of the trends that have surfaced. I'll start from technology and teaching in education. This is definitely something that we all experience. We see it happening to different degrees in our countries, in our schools. Technology is here to stay. And even though some of us may be fearful of technology, or we started off being fearful of technology, many of us have embraced technologies to different extent. We are all still learning to manage technologies, but we know that technology and teaching and learning are going to be very closely related, and even more so in the time to come. Now, blended and hybrid learning was something that has always been in the background. It happens in different classrooms, but because of the pandemic, suddenly all of us are thrust into this space where we have to use technology to teach and to learn. So blended learning here would refer to courses where some parts of the sessions are online and other classes or other sessions are face-to-face. And sometimes we also have sessions where we teach in the classroom and at the same time there are other people who are attending online. AI in education is another trend that we see. In some countries, this is happening a lot more than others. In other countries, we also begin to see that the nascent use of AI in education. Unfortunately, one of the other trends is that there is a widening performance gaps among students. This happens within the same country, and it also happens across different places. So this widening gap in performance is really something as educators that we must be very concerned about, because we want education to be a pathway for every child and every youth to have access to the developments in the country, to have access to careers, to have access and to be able to contribute in different ways. Nationwide education reforms is another growing trend, and we see this in every country. Every country is doing our best to ensure that our students in our schools, in our institutes of higher learning, are able to be ready for the society, for the careers when they leave school or they leave college. And what this means is that we need to start changing some of our curriculum, reforming the way we teach, reforming the way we interact with students. And enhanced curriculum and programs is tied up very closely to these nationwide educational reforms, because in order to carry out large-scale reforms, we have to start with the smaller pieces. And these smaller pieces are small, but they are important. So enhanced curriculum and programs for each subject is indeed something that we see in many countries. So these are some of the global trends in education. Now, we know that our world today, more than ever, is what some people refer to as a VUCA world. A world which is volatile, it's unstable, it's constantly changing, it's uncertain, it's very difficult to anticipate or predict what will happen. It's complex because with technology, with different kinds of innovations, our worlds are so interlinked, interconnected. Cities are linked with one another, schools are linked, but what this means also is that the interactions become more complex. It is not just one way, but it is many ways. And ambiguity. I think ambiguity is a concern. There are sometimes imprecise and unclear directions in the world today, especially for our youths, when they hear so many voices and they see so many things. And as educators, we want to provide them with guidance and directions to help them to develop and become good and useful citizens for the country. So these are some of the elements of a VUCA world. And we see all this coming into play when 2.5 years ago, the whole world was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. But apart from that, we also see what is happening is that we are now in what we call the fourth industrial revolution, where we see a fusion of technologies that blur the lines between the physical, the digital, and the biological. And I'll explain this a bit more. So technologies have always disrupted our societies. We don't think about technologies in the 18th and 19th century, but when the water and steam power came into play, right, it really upset a lot of ways of working. That was our first industrial revolution. Then electricity came around and it created mass production. And again, it created a lot of disruptions for societies. But at the same time, they brought about good. And I think for us is, as always, how do you manage and balance the disruptions and the good that comes from technologies? And I think as educators, we constantly think about this for our students. Then, of course, we are very familiar with the digital revolution, which where electronics and information technology have automated a lot of production. And what this also means is that it's led into what we now see as the fourth industrial revolution. Picking up a smartphone on our hand is actually another evidence of the fourth industrial revolution, because now we can look at our smartphone and use our face to start up a lot of things, to have access into different things. This is a clear fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological spheres. So this is an example that's very close to our own lives. Now, let me move on now to the point about how is the fourth industrial revolution changing education and learning. And for this, I will cite a few pieces of work. So, for example, where does the term fourth industrial revolution come from? It is normally attributed to the World Economic Forum chairperson or executive director, Schwab, where the term fourth industrial revolution was used to describe some of the phenomena that we see today. It builds on the digital revolution. There are rapid changes to technology, industry, and societal patterns and processes. And all this is because of the increasing interconnectivity and smart automation. We all know it, we experience it, how automation and interconnectivity has put us in a different way of living now compared to, let's say, 30, 40 years ago. It is characterized by a much more ubiquitous and mobile internet. We know that, right? The fact that I'm able to speak to all of you on Teams today talks about how powerful technology is in connecting all of us. Now, some of the features of the fourth industrial revolution talked about how the digital, the biological, and physical converge. So it's not just the digital. Increasingly, we see, for example, robots doing things that human beings can do. They no longer just put screws into machines. Robots are now able to recognize faces. They are able to, in some countries, they're able to offer companionship to some older people who are living on their own. We see a growing harmonization, integration of many different disciplines and discoveries. And this is a very key point as educators for us to take note of. Disciplines are no longer in silos. We talk about interdisciplinarity. We talk about this especially for those of us who are involved in teaching youths in colleges and in universities. We find that it's very difficult to just prepare our students for one single discipline without looking at how other disciplines may have an impact on this particular discipline. And we see a fusion of technologies. I talk about, robots. We are familiar with Internet of Things, where we can use sensors to pull data in and for analysis for different purposes. And increasingly, this is also going into the schools. 3D printing is another example. They provide prototypes of manufacture before they go into large-scale production. So a lot of this have to do with technology. And how does all this actually impact education, right? I will come to that in a minute. Now, schools and higher education institutions, of which, we are all represented here, will have to contend with some of the direct and indirect impact of the fourth industrial revolution. Some of the impact is already felt. Some will be felt in greater ways. But whatever it is, we can no longer ignore the impact of what we call, the fusion of the technologies and all the various technological and innovative developments in the wider world. So I mentioned just now, but more interdisciplinary teaching and learning, and this is definitely true in high schools, in IHLs. What that means is that faculty, teachers, educators, we will need to constantly update our expertise. For some of us, it may just be broadening our understanding of the wider world, how technology, how innovation will have an impact on the way we work. And, in your theme, you talk about creativity and collaborations. All these are going to be so important for us as educators and teachers. Because of all these innovations, we will need to take a long, hard look at our respective curriculum and teaching. Are our curriculums keeping pace with the development that is in the world today? Now, naturally, we can't do a lot of the things that, industry is doing, but we can ask ourselves the questions, are we preparing our students with the kind of thinking, with the kind of disposition that will enable them to live and work comfortably in the world that they're going to step into? A world which is very different from the world that we, when we were students, stepped into. So updating curriculum is important, and of course, focus on different modes of learning would be very important. No longer can we rely on just one mode of teaching, one class, one teacher in front. In fact, all over the world, educators, Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, different countries have been focusing on the evolving and changing the modes of learning and teaching for our students. But more so with technological advances now, we need to think about that. And I will very quickly also talk about how teaching and learning, right, continuing from my last point, how teaching and learning is impacted. So if you start right at the top of this slide, anytime, anywhere, technology actually enables us to learn anytime and anywhere. Of course, we still have in schools and colleges, we still have a curriculum time to stick to. But what this means is that our students and ourselves can now learn a lot of things without having to follow the old way of learning where everything comes from one single source or different sources. Learning is also more personalized in places where AI have become a big part of education. Um, Data about students have been collected and analyzed, and in turn, students are provided with different kinds of learning or enrichment that they need. We talk about independence for learners, and as teachers and educators, we know we have long been facilitators of learning. But with the fourth industrial revolution, with all the technological innovations around us, we will have to be even greater and more effective facilitators of learning. Because for many of our students, let's be honest, some of them don't need the textbooks anymore. There is so much information in the internet. So as teachers, we are the ones who will have to help our students develop criticality. Apart from what we're teaching in the classroom, we must help them to develop critical thinking when they access all this information around them, so that they're able to evaluate and use the information in the right way. So it involves student involvement, right? Student increasingly becomes more vocal about what they want to learn. And one of the ways in which we find that in order to develop some of the skills that they need as they step into the world is through projects. Now your theme talks about creativity and also collaboration. And those of us who have used projects for teaching, we know how much projects can be leveraged to develop those skills. And data interpretation with lots of affordances to collect data about students. Students themselves can also analyze data. In fact, this is one skill that we need to start helping students to develop from young. Data comes in many forms. It doesn't have to be big data. But because of the affordances of AI, now a lot of the analysis is using big data. But to our students, as they grow, do they understand the thinking behind the use of data? It could be for them, it could be primary school students, it could be data about canteen food. When they do a survey, the data about whether students like the food in the canteen, what kind of food is sold, that's data. And we should use information such as this as teaching points and as part of our curriculum to help them develop reasoning and inferencing skills. And finally, in terms of assessment is going to be quite different as we go forward. Now we know that one of the innovations of teaching and learning in the last 10 years or even a little bit more is that we have now considered different ways of assessing. It's not just assessing of learning, it's also assessing for learning. And we will see more of this that can be supported by technology. So the fact that, for your theme, you have included technologies as part of innovation is very timely and very, very incisive, because this is exactly where we are. And that is the fourth industrial revolution is bringing all this so close to us and making it so clear to us that in order for our students to succeed when they step out, they need to start developing a lot of those dispositions where technologies, creativity, as well as collaboration will all need to come together so that they are able to deal with the innovations in the world out there, but at the same time are able to start developing the mindsets that prepares them for this. And as teachers, this is very important for us too. I always tell my colleagues, if we want our students to learn in a certain way or in different ways, we ourselves must be able to learn in those ways. Because if we don't experience it, we don't experience the challenges, we don't experience the joy, it's very hard to motivate our students to do the same. So a very quick word about lifelong learning. Definitely, we know that with so many things around us that are changing, what we learned in education school 20 years ago, 30 years ago, are still relevant, but some parts need to be updated. And that's why associations such as PAFTA are so critical for lifelong learning of teachers. And in Singapore, we say the same to our teachers, that you need to continue to learn and also sometimes unlearn things that we have learned and learn new things. So a quick citation here about how we need to prepare our students to thrive in the new economy that's defined by technology. As well as at the same time, we must provide our learners and ourselves as educators and teachers opportunities to learn continuously. Now, I want to take another quotation here from my colleague from NIE, David Ng and colleagues, who talks about future-ready learners. When we talk about all these changes, when we talk about innovation, we're actually talking about how can we prepare ourselves and how can we prepare our students to be ready for all the things that are coming in the future. Now, we don't know exactly everything that's going to come in the future, but we can look at trends. We can look at what's happening now. So to use David's definition, being future ready, a successful education system is able to develop future ready individuals who will continue to learn beyond graduation, take on future life work, and thrive in a changing society and environment. And by future ready, it implies that learning outcomes must be dynamic and aligned to the new realities that emerge over time. And this means that as educators and teachers, it is our responsibility to read the landscape, to work with different agencies to ensure that the curriculum that we put in place for our students, whether they're in primary, secondary, or college, that these curricula are actually providing the kind of learning outcomes that will prepare our students for these changes. This is a set of figures that many of us are familiar with. This report came out by McKinsey in 2017, and we see this already happening. According to the prediction, 50% of jobs will be automated. Just look around us, right? Look around the things that we used to do or other people used to do, and we no longer need people to do such things. And people who continue to do such things are in a risk of losing those jobs. And work will be displaced. But what is also very telling is that we will need to constantly retrain. Now, for us as educators and teachers, we are in the line of education. It's a bit like healthcare workers that you can say is evergreen. It is important for the success of a nation. But it behoves us as educators and teachers to constantly retrain, develop new skills, be brave, try and do things, and we may make mistakes, but it's okay. I tell my colleagues it's okay. Do your blended learning, do your hybrid teaching using, cameras and all these different things. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we try. At some point, when we keep learning, it will succeed. And ultimately, all this is not going to just benefit us, because as educators, as teachers, what we do is to benefit our learners. So these are the skills for today and the future. And you can see that learning innovation skills are very critical. And these are what used to be called 21st century skills. They're still called 21st century skills, but in the context of the fourth industrial revolution, you can see why these skills have become even more important. The first set of skills, learning and innovation, actually speaks to our humanity, speaks to us being human. Technologies can do a lot of things, but there are still many things that robots can't do. Many things that an AI teacher cannot do. And we as teachers, we as educators must constantly develop these skills that continue to assert our humanity and our humanness so that we're able to develop the younger generation to be good human beings, to learn the values, and to be able to understand the ethics of human behavior. One of the trouble with technology is that we constantly have to want to think about the ethical nature of the application of certain technologies and AIs. And that's where this learning and innovation skills, and the skills, I would say skills of being human, are so important. We have life and career skills, and we also have information, media, and technology skills. And I won't go into this, but I want to just come back to technology because it is also one important part of the theme for the conference today. And again, here I cite one of my colleagues, two of my colleagues, who talks about how technology can transform learning and education. But what I want to highlight here is this second paragraph. If we really want to achieve transformative learning with technology, then we should steer towards leveraging the human-computer partnership, which can empower our learners and engage them in meaningful and deeper learning with technology. We don't need to be afraid of technology. Our students shouldn't be afraid of technology. At the same time, as educators, we should also be in a position of steering the use of technology. One of the things that we as educators and teachers must watch out against is that the demands to use technology, the pressure to use technology can be so great that we sometimes may not have sufficient time to evaluate the e-tools that we have. Again, it behoves us as educators and teachers to ensure that every piece of technology that we use in the classroom is used ethically, but also used effectively to encourage and to promote learning. Again, I tell my colleagues, and this again, I'm sure is something that you all talk about, is that we must never allow technology to drive teaching and learning. We as educators, as teachers, we have understanding about teaching and learning, and we must be able to use technology to serve the pedagogical innovations that we want. Now, having said that, we must also be willing to learn from people and from systems and from tools that are useful for education. So that's where this kind of human and computer relationship comes in. Okay, in order to quickly illustrate this, I will want to share a video here. Okay, can give me a second because I might have not included the sound. Let me try again. Okay. You able to hear the sound?
Yes, we can.
You can hear the sound. Wonderful. Yes, that's great. So I'll come back to the sharing then. Yes, this is using technology.
I am Yong Chua, a senior lecturer with NSSE. As an undergraduate, I've always been fascinated with how a simple element like carbon can have so much impact in our daily life. I want to be able to pass on my passion in organic chemistry to my students, who themselves are teachers in the making, so that they can be pass this passion onto their students.
Dr. Teo is always very lively in his teaching methods. He always comes across as this ball of happiness, and we can always very easily relate to him in our lessons. So it was hardly a chore listening to him. It was very easy to understand the concepts he needs to deliver.
So it's been a very enjoyable learning experience with Dr. Teo. His way of building rapport with us was really enjoyable, and it makes lessons even more engaging. and he role modeled what it's like to be a very caring and nurturing educator, which also taught me how to be a better educator to my students. So the way I built rapport with my students during practicum, I felt like there was a lot of influence from Dr. Teo.
In the learning of organic chemistry, one of the biggest challenges is in visualizing the 3D representations and how chemical reactions and processes change these configurations. I have used molecular models and simulations extensively as pedagogical tools to teach 3D representations. However, these traditional methods are effective to a certain extent. I work closely with a colleague at InLearning in the development of the AR/VR project. She's a very good collaborator, very creative and grounded. Her ideas will always stem from consideration of the learning problem and the student's learning perspective, and therefore, the meaningful implementation of the technology in the lesson design.
I always found it very difficult to visualize like bonds and all those in like 2D. So it was very nice to be able to see it in 3D form. And during the AR, that we feel that there's like some vibration to like show that there is a repulsion between the bonds. And I really like that because it also tells us to visualize it better. And I also like that it's very interactive for the VR because you can actually like assign the bonds and everything.
I think the AR and VR actually helped me to visualize the bonds better because I'm someone who has difficulty visualizing things in 3D. So when the chair confirmation was first introduced to us, it was very difficult for me to actually figure out which way it's supposed to turn. But with the AR, it was actually a lot easier to see how the rotations take place. And the VR actually helped a lot with understanding stereochemistry as well and how to assign the priority to the different groups. Because at least then there was some haptic feedback to tell us about the repulsion between the different groups in there as well.
In this whole endeavor, what is most important is the teaching and learning aspect. The technology is only used to make the process better. So I hope that my students will always remember that passion for the subject and their student comes first, and not to be afraid of trying something different.
Okay, I hope you have enjoyed that video to talk a little bit about how technology is used. So my third question is why and how should educators and teachers rethink learning for ourselves and our students? And to me, this is also a very critical question set against the broader context of technology, the fourth industrial revolution. Now, for me, the important point about this question is that as educators, we must remember what education is for. And I've taken this quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and we can apply that to any country. Education links the children and youths, whether of the cities or the villages, to all that is best and lasting in a country. And we can put the Philippines here. The education links the children and the youths, whether of the cities or the villages, to all that is best and lasting in the Philippines. And as educators and teachers, this, I believe, must always be the goal, the vision that drives us when we teach in our respective countries. Teaching is not a transfer of information from teachers to learners. It is an educational process of building up learners and leading them to achieve their potential as a person. Now, in light of this, what NIE has done is to develop a 4-life learning framework. We believe that learning is important, but we wanted to articulate what kind of learning should our student teachers and also the students in Singapore should really be concerned about. And particularly for our student teachers, because when we prepare teachers for teaching and learning, we believe that their influence in the schools will be very great. So lifelong learning, connecting learning to a purpose that goes on throughout the course of our life. Life deep learning is the intentional and experiential learning of a domain or discipline area. We need to go deep. We need to know, just as teachers, we need to know a lot about education and how to teach and learn. We need to go deep, but also life-wide. Ways of learning that's beyond our classrooms, ways of learning that is connected, but not directly received from our curriculum. And life-wise learning is learning beyond ourselves, looking at other people, developing in ourselves practical wisdom, but at the same time to develop traits such as empathy with the people, the students, the colleagues whom we work with. And at the center of it all is social emotional regulation and well-being. The pandemic has taught us many things, and one important thing that it teaches us or has taught us is that mental well-being is such an important matter for all of us, whether we are teachers, educators, or for our learners. And I saw this also in the introduction for today's conference, that mental well-being is such an important part of any teacher's or educator's work. And along with all these 4 lives of learning, we want to focus on purposeful learning. Very often in many education systems, Singapore included, students learn because they want to do well and pass exams. But that is not sustainable, because what happens after they pass exams? They move on, they go into university, they get a good job. And what happens after that? So we must inculcate in our students from very young the need to learn for a purpose. Purposeful learning is so important because, especially in the age of uncertainty, purpose-driven life, purpose-driven living, learning is going to help us to become resilient, help us to get through many of the challenges in life. And again, we have to prepare our students with such mindsets. Now let me come to the last part of my talk today, which is about teachers learning. Now, just as we want our students to learn long, deep, wide, and wise, we ourselves as teachers must also be able to experience such learning. So I would like to offer 3 dispositions or traits that as teachers we must have in order to deal with all the changing landscape that is outside us, outside our career in the world today. So in order for us to become better teachers, teachers must be leaders of learning. And by leaders, it doesn't mean the one person who leads everyone else. Because in a team of teachers and educators, different people can take on leadership roles at different times. What is it we want to learn? What are the things that are important for our learners? What are the gaps in our own expertise? Let's come together, right, and identify some of these and say, these are the things we want to learn. And different people can take leadership in a community and encourage one another. And at the same time, also to identify expertise that can help you learn. So teacher as leader of learning is a very democratic process. It is, of course, learning from the more senior, the more experienced leaders, but as a community, leadership can be distributed. Teacher as learner. We as teachers must remember what it means to learn. We as teachers must continue to learn so that we continue to experience the joy of learning and at the same time the challenges of learning that our students may face. And finally, teacher as co-designer of learning. Sometimes we as teachers and educators, we may say, okay, my principal or headmaster sends me to this course, I would just go for it. Yes, there are some courses that we will sign up for and go for, but at the same time, there are also many opportunities where we can say, we want to have someone come in and teach us about certain things, but let's discuss with this person and say, these are the things we want to learn, and these are ways in which we think we will learn well. So you are co-designing your learning experience with your mentors, with the trainers, and so on. Now, if you link this back to the 4th Industrial Revolution about how, the changing landscape, technologies, and all this have changed the way students learn, it also changes the way teachers learn. But to me, I think a challenge here is the mindset. As teachers and as lots of other professionals, sometimes we can get very comfortable in the way we learn, in the way we do things. And sometimes it's very hard to unlearn certain things. But if we expect our students to be resilient, to learn, to develop new ways of learning, then I think we ourselves are equally responsible for our own learning in such ways, so that we will become good models of learning for our students. We can tell them, we can share with them our experiences, we can share with them our mistakes, we can share with them our failures, to encourage them to say that learning is never a smooth journey. But if we are persistent and if we continue to find ways of learning and we motivate ourselves to learn, we can learn more and more each day. So finally, let me sum up by saying that for teachers and educators, and we can add for the fourth industrial revolution, against the backdrop of all the different things I've shared with you, what is still very important is that we hold true to the purpose of education. Education draws out the best, or rather it should draw out the best in every child and every youth who is in our classroom, in our lecture room, right? On the fields, for those of us who are working on physical education, anywhere, in the art studio, in the music studio. We need to hold true to the purpose of education, to know that education is a gift that we can give our learners. And because of the gift of education, it opens doors for them, it opens their minds, it opens their hearts. And all these are very important, especially in the fourth industrial revolution, where sometimes technology takes over so many things and we no longer question. So as I said earlier, the being human part is very important, and it connects back to the heart of education. Mindsets, we need to continue to think about the way we think, and also think about whether there are ways in which we need to think differently. We need to change our mindsets. We need to derive more practical wisdom, creativity, flexibility, collaboration, being innovative, and a whole host of other skills that we will need. Competencies. We talk about life deep learning. In order for us to continue to teach and educate well, we must continue to develop the depth and the breadth, the soft skills and the hard skills, and lifelong learning dispositions. And very important too is, as educators and teachers, especially in this age where there's so much ambiguity, so much happening that our students sometimes get so confused about, we ourselves must embody and model the values and the learning priorities for our students. Whether we like it or not, and I'm sure we were told this when we were training to be teachers, that we are role models. Our students look to us. Sometimes they look to us and they learn more from our actions, from our words, than from the way we tell them what to do. So to sum up now, these were the central questions. What is the global landscape? And I've shared with you some trends, and also shared with you the features of fourth industrial revolution and how it impacts us. But we ask ourselves the question, and this is related to number 3, what really matters? What really matters is that we as educators and teachers remember why we have education in the first place. Despite of all the disruptions around us, all the technological changes, some things don't change, and that is the value and the gift of education. And we are all in a very privileged position to be able to offer that gift to every child and every youth in our schools and in our colleges, wherever they may be. And in order to do that, we must be the best teacher that we can be. And that would entail what I have shared with you about holding true to the purpose of education and learning in different ways, lifelong, life deep, life wide, and life wise. So that's all I want to share. And thank you so much for your patience. This is the first time I have used Teams to do a conference. And as you can see, I was also fumbling a little bit. But I am glad for this opportunity, because I believe that the next time when I use Teams to do a conference presentation, it will be a lot smoother. So thank you for your patience and everything.
Thank you so much, Professor Christine Go. for the very informative, timely revelations and pointers referred to earlier. Certainly, your mentioned food for thoughts will serve as guidelines for future plans in our universities and colleges. Now, we award the Certificate of Recognition to Professor Christine Go. May I request Professor Go, Dr. Brenda B. Corpus, and Dr. Rita Tagalog to open their cameras. The Certificate of Recognition reads this way. The Philippine Association for Teachers and Educators, PAFTE, Incorporated, in partnership with Lorimar Publishing Incorporated, awards this Certificate of Recognition to Professor Christine Go in grateful recognition and appreciation for her lofty thoughts, brilliant ideas, and rich experiences shared as keynote speaker during the 12th Midyear Pafte Convention with the theme Innovation, where collaboration, creativity, and technology meet, May 20 to 21, 2022, via Microsoft Live. Signed, Dr. Rita May P. Tagalog, Executive Secretary, and Dr. Brenda P. Corpus, President. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Professor Christine Go.
Thank you very much.
We shall now have a health break for 15 minutes. Please be back at exactly 10 a.m. Let us now all listen to the inspirational message to be delivered by the President of Healing Sunday Eucharist Sunday TV Mass, Reverend Father Glenn Paul Gomez, SVD. For everyone's information, Father Glenn hails from San Jose Occidental, Mindoro. He spent his high school days in the SVD seminary, was ordained a priest in 1988, and eventually became president of Divine Word College of San Jose. Aside from being an academician, Father Glenn is likewise an educator, formator, psychologist, missionary, media personality. Today, he is back to the Christ the King community. All these talents he combines, according to him, to spread the word of God. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Father Glenn Gomez, SVD.
Good morning to all of you. I'm so happy to be with you, PAFTE, the Philippine Association for Teacher Education, to all the members, to all officers, headed by Dr. Brenda Corpus. Thank you so much for inviting me. So this is PAFTE in partnership with Private Education Assistance Committee. I was asked to give an inspirational message in your mid-year conference. I hope and pray that I will inspire all of you. Inspiration in spirit. Let that spirit be in, and let that spirit inspire us. Amen. So you start your mid-year conference today, May 20, up to tomorrow, May 21, 2022. And the theme that I was asked to give is innovation, where creativity, collaboration, and technology meet. I'm excited to talk about innovation, creativity, collaboration, and technology. So this is my outline. I first share about innovation, and then technology will proceed to creativity and collaboration, and finally we will have the integration. So let me start with innovation. How do we define innovation? I just would like to give a simple definition. Innovation is the introduction of something new. When we innovate, there must something new to be added. And that something new is very important in innovation, because without that something new, there isn't anything new. O nga naman. If we will not put something new, then it will remain old. So we have to introduce something new. And without anything new, there will be no progress, be it in business or education, or if an organization or an institution isn't making any progress, it simply cannot stay relevant in this contemporary and competitive society. So we are now in this time, contemporary and competitive society. So I would like to share about two books written by a Harvard professor, Harvard Business School, Professor Clayton Christensen. His first book is entitled The Innovator's Dilemma. He asked two questions. Why do successful companies fail, And why do startups companies succeed? So the other one becomes successful, but the other company fails. So this book, The Innovator's Dilemma, will tell us about this phenomenon. So it's very important to innovate. But for anyone who does innovation faces dilemma. And this book, the first edition of this book is subtitled The Revolutionary Book That Will Change the Way You Do Business. So there are ways to do business, as there are many ways now to do how to teach. But I observe in this first edition, the author was saying the revolutionary book that will change the way you do business. But let's first say something about his second book, The Innovator Solution. So there is a dilemma, so there must be a solution. And what is the innovator's solution? This book will tell us how to respond to the dilemma. How? Creating and sustaining successful growth. So, with his second book, he has now a co-author, Michael Raynor. But when I look at the second edition of his first book, The Innovator's Dilemma, the author changed the subtitle. In the new edition, the subtitle now is When New Technologies Cause Great Firms to Fail. So if we ask, what is the culprit and who is the culprit? Why companies fail? Or another term for culprit, the bad apple in the lot, the one who does the misdeed, who commits the crime. When we talk of business falling, becoming bankrupt, you know, the culprit is the new technology. Any business that will not adapt to the new technology will surely fail. But it is not just a new technology. To be precise, there is a disruptive technology. Let's take example, Kodak. Naalala nyo, nagpapapicture tayo noon, Kodak, anong ginagamit? Film. In 1996, Kodak had 140,000 employees in the world. One of the successful companies then. But fast forward, 16 years later, in 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy. Why did Kodak fail? Because it did not upgrade its business. They were using film, but there was already a new way of capturing the moment. It's no longer the film, it's now becoming digital. So, a famous company becoming bankrupt, that is Kodak. On the same year, 2012, there was a new company, Instagram. It had a market capitalization of $1 billion with only 13 employees. But we know that Facebook bought it. So what is and who is the culprit? It's the disruptive technology. According to the analysis, in 10 years, it's predicted that 40% of the Fortune 500 companies will no longer exist. Any company that will not introduce something new, if it will not embrace and adapt new technology, particularly disruptive technology, will surely fall. In business, we have to innovate, we have to introduce something new. This is our team, innovation, where creativity, collaboration, and technology meet. Now we proceed to the second topic, from innovation to technology. Let's again give a simple definition of technology. Technology is the application of scientific knowledge to the practical aims of human life. We have to innovate and we are going to use technology. That's why the technology is the application of scientific knowledge. What is learned, share it in the human life, the practical aims of human life. Aside from just introducing new technology, there is this disruptive technology. It is not actually a negative one. When we talk of disruptive technology, it is an innovation. See, this new technology is an innovation. Disruptive technology is an innovation that significantly alters the way that consumers, industries, businesses, including us, educators and students, operate. Disruptive technology will affect us humans, both the teachers and the students. A disruptive technology sweeps away the systems or habits it replaces because it has attributes that are superior. So this new technology, the disruptive technology, has a superior element, and that will make or break the company. There are now many disruptive technologies. In this picture, it tells about 12 disruptive technologies. First, I would like to share a very inspiring book. I love reading this book and I'm learning a lot from it. One word. The title of this book is Abundance. The subtitle, The Future is Better Than You Think. Written by a medical doctor, an engineer, an entrepreneur. Who? Peter Diamandis, an American Greek. He looks at the future in a very positive perspective. That's why I love Peter Diamandis and his book, Abundance. The future is better than you think. Nowadays, many humans are becoming negative and pessimist. How to stop negativity? So, this book will help us. How to counteract people's perception about the future. And what kind of perception? Filled with negativity and pessimism. Not only that, there is also a mindset that's creeping in. And what is that? Scarcity mindset. And how to transcend it? There are ways to change a scarcity mindset to abundance mentality. So solution for Peter Diamandis, the solution is technology. Technology will be a great tool to do that. How to go beyond negativity, pessimism, and how to transcend scarcity mindset. And I'm so happy that Diamandis followed the hierarchy of Abraham Maslow. So we know that Abraham Maslow, the American psychologist, the father of humanistic psychology, he studied the needs. So from sickness psychology, Maslow proceeded to healthy psychology. How to become healthy people? Fulfill, fulfill the needs. And what are the hierarchy of needs? From physiological to safety, to love, belonging, to esteem, to self-actualization. But may I add, Maslow also realized that humans have insatiable needs. So those who have reached the highest, the self-actualization, he was so surprised that those who reach that stage, many are committing suicide. So he made another study, and then he realized it is not the fulfilling of needs. There must be also transcendence, because self cannot be the center. So that is going beyond already, no? But Peter Diamandis followed this structure, and with the, of course, no, in abundance. So what is the pyramid of abundance of Peter Diamandis? So for him, for Peter Diamandis, we have to develop the food, the water, shelter, and then proceed to the higher level, the energy, including education, communication, and healthcare and freedom. And to explain this abundance pyramid of Peter Diamandis, let's look at the level. So the bottom is how to become abundant and how to have sufficient food, water, how to have shelter and other basic survival concerns. And he proved how human lives improve throughout the years because of technology. Now, even the lack of water, by inventing new machines that will convert salt water into fresh water and not using fossil fuel, but pure energy that is solar, then we could have more water. And because of that, we will have abundant energy, ample educational opportunities, and access to ubiquitous communications and information. And at the highest level, Peter Diamandis said there must be freedom and health. I will share the disruptive technology, how to live longer. I'm so I'm so happy to know that technology will help us live not only 100 years. We could now reach 150 years. Wow! So freedom and health are two core prerequisites enabling an individual to contribute to society. I am just so excited now, and I'm so happy to meet Peter Diamandis through his book. Now he said humanity is now entering a period of radical transformation, which technology has the potential to significantly raise the basic standards of living for every man, woman, and child on the planet. Peter Diamandis added, within a generation, we will be able to provide goods and services once reserved for the wealthy few to any and all who need them. Abundance for all is actually within our grasp. So Peter Diamandis claims within a generation, we will be able to provide goods and services once reserved only for the wealthy few, but now to any and all who need them, including you and me. abundance for all is actually within our grasp. You know, time will come, Peter Diamante said, everyone will just use cell phone. And who knows, cell phone will just be given for free. We will not pay anymore for the cell phone because companies will produce their own cell phone so that we could easily buy their products. He calls this demonetization. That is one of the gifts of technology. Aside from abundance, Peter Diamandis wrote another book with his co-author Steven Kotler, Bold, subtitle, How to Go Big, Create Wealth, and Impact the World. You could search all these books and just type the title, and if you want, just type also summary of Bold, and it's there. And that's the beauty of internet, technology. You don't even have to buy that book. Just read the summary as if you have read the whole book. So, and the third book that I'm interested in, Peter Diamandis wrote this third book, The Future is Faster Than You Think. So it's not only the future is better, but the future is faster. Subtitled, How Converging Technologies Are Transforming Business, Industries, and Our Lives. So now, let me enumerate some of the technological advancement happening in the world. And Peter Diamandis said, we are living during the most amazing time ever to be alive. Isn't it great? Ngayon tayo buhay. In fact, congratulate yourself. Bakit? We are still alive. We came out victorious. Tinalo natin si COVID-19. Maski anong variant pa yan. Amen. So we are living during this most amazing time ever, even in the midst of Omicron sub-variant. Okay? So all these things are happening because of technological advancement. The future is better than what you think, what I think. First, because of artificial intelligence. This is the natural intelligence, right? But now, we have helper. Sino ang ating kasambahay? Sino ang ating helper? Si AI, si artificial intelligence. And look at this artificial intelligence, the AI. Have you heard of 3D printing? Most probably, yes, printing. But you know, in America, in Europe, they are putting up houses and buildings using 3D printing. Let me show two pictures. Houses and buildings are now printed. Ang alam lang natin sa printing, yung printing ng t-shirt at itong katatapos ng election, printing in the tarpaulin, okay? No! Today, the first 3D printed home happened in USA, in the state of Virginia. This is a 3D printed house. Yes, houses are now being printed. In Europe, the first 3D printed house happened in Holland, Netherlands. This is the first 3D printed house in Netherlands or Holland. Wow! And what is the implication of this? Bakit tayo dapat magsaya? 3D printing technology is the answer to many homeless people in the world. There are 150 million humans na walang bahay. In the Philippines, we have 5 to 6 million backlog of houses. Imagine if you have the 3D printing machine, you could just print, meaning you could just put up houses just like that. Isn't it great? It's so exciting to live in this contemporary time. What else? So, ano pa itong mga disruptive technology? Before we just talk of internet, now we talk of Internet of Things. What does it mean? Interconnection of things and people. So it's not just you are interconnecting things, the computers, now including humans. There is now interconnection of things and people. I just would like to spend some time on this. Let's look at the digital around the world. So this was last year, April 2021. The population, 7.85. Now, April 2022, the population is 7.9. Malapit na tayo mag 8 billion humans in the world. So, ang total population sa mundo ngayon, 7.9. Tanungin po natin, so, ilan ang nakatira sa cities? 56.5%, meaning sa civilization, quote unquote. And then, how about those using phones, iPhones, cell phones? 5.27 billion. 5,270 million. Percentage, ang may gamit na ng cellphone ngayon, because of pandemic, no, lalong lumakas, 67.1%. Wow, ang dami na. How about internet users in the world? 4.7 billion, meaning ang internet users ngayon, 60.1%. How about social media? Ito na, yung mga Facebook, yung mga TikTok, 55.1% or 0.3 billion as of last year. Last year pa nga pala ito. So nadagdagan na naman. Kaya ito ang kagandahan. This is now the beauty of AI, of technology. Again, let's look at the users of internet and the implications of this in our life. Alam niyo po, way back 2000, ang gumagamit ng internet, less than 1 billion, 6% lang. And then, 10 years after, tingnan po natin yan ha, 10 years after, 2010, naging 23% na, meaning less than 2 billion. At ito ang sabi ni Peter Diamandis. Ngayong year, mararating natin ngayon, this year, 2022, the users now are 66%. At anong sabi niya? From less than 2 billion, ngayon, aabot na ng 5 billion, there will be new 3 billion new minds that are using internet. Anong ibig sabihin yon? Itong 3 billion new minds na ito, malaki ang may tutulong ngayong 2022. But up to 2025, 3 years from now, remember, we will reach the 8 billion population. 2025, 100% users na ang mga tao sa mundo. In 2025, there will be new 5 billion new minds using internet. What is the implication of that? Ito po ang maganda. So magkakaroon, many could create, many could discover, many will consume, many will invent and will desire. To sum it up, 2 years from now, 8 billion population, 100% users of internet, there will be new geniuses that will share their talents and give solutions to the world. The question is, Father, ang hirap nga ngayon ng internet. Yes, as of 2022. But remember, those people whose businesses are into technology like Zuckerberg, the Facebook has a new name, it's called Metaverse. Zuckerberg also would like to send internet satellites, same with the Google and this OneWeb, these three business people, Jacobs, Branson, and Weiler. They will also send satellite internet. And of course, the best of them all, Elon Musk. He already sent 4,000 plus Starlink satellites in 2019, but he wants to send 40,000 more, 40,000 internet satellites, and it is called now LEO, Low Earth Move Orbit. It's only 500 kilometers away from the Earth. The satellite we are using now, that's why there are many interruptions in our internet, is 42,000 above. Ganun kalayo. That's why our internet is not yet that good. But 3 years from now, with Elon Musk's Starlink and other companies like Facebook, Google, wow, eventually there will be good internet providers. Isn't it great? Again, in this, in the midst of this abundance, people have no idea how fast things are moving. Kaya tingnan po natin, look at the technological advancement. Now we are entering into a new way of using vehicles or cars. Slowly, because of climate change, we are into EV, electric vehicle, and we are using energy that will not give us pollution and will not affect our climate. Not only that, time will come, wala ng taong driver. There will be driverless cars. Why? Because everything will be autonomous. We will become automatic and less accident because of AI, because of artificial intelligence. So this is what's happening now. And let's talk about health. That this is another interesting thing. Oh, how old are you na? And are you sick? Are you not healthy? Now, our approach to sickness, ano ang tawag natin dito? Curing the sickness. But there is a new technology. And what is that? Removing the sickness. What does it mean? As of now, we are still curing the sickness. But time will come, we will already remove the causes of sickness. Paano yun? Because of this development, the Human Genome Project is now 100% done. Meaning, they were able to dissect our DNA. And in our DNA, it records the history of our human life and our health. And what is the beauty of the Human Genome Project? Ito po, ang genomic revolution. Now, our DNA could be read. Meron na ngayong machine that could read our DNA. Kaya nga alam na nila lahat yan. Hindi lang yan nare-read. It's not only being read. Ngayon, mayroon pang the writing of DNA na isusulat pa. Hindi lang nababasa, isinusulat pa. And finally, it's not only reading, writing, mayroon pang editing of DNA. What does it mean? That our DNA could be edited? Yun na po yun. The sickness in our DNA can be removed. And what is the implication of that? It's no longer curing the sickness, it's removing the sickness. So with that, it has something to do with longevity. Making 100 years old is now the new 60. Pagka na-reach mo ang 100 years old ngayon, 60 years old ka na lang. Wow! Why? Because ito na, there is human longevity na. Because sicknesses could be removed. Tatanggalin na, wala ka nang gagamutin. So, in this Time magazine, the front page, there is now increased longevity. The science of living longer. Meaning, Dr. Ma'am, Dr. Brenda, and our old teachers are listening here. You know this baby? Look at that picture of that baby. This baby could live to be 142 years old. Ganun na ang buhay. This will be the next lifespan of humans here on Earth. Isn't it great? Bakit pwede? Because of technology, because of human genome, which is now 100% finished project. So these are some disruptive technologies that could help humans, that could help you, that could help me with regard to our health, with regard to our needs here on earth. So, yes, indeed, we are living during the most amazing time ever to be alive. Very exciting if you're going to make an invention. What particular field you want to share your talent? Meron ka bang nais invent? Kung itong mga technology ito na andito na, ano pa kayang technology ang pwede nating gawin? Isn't it very exciting? Yes, indeed. All these things are happening because of technological advancement. That is technology. Our team innovation, where creativity, collaboration, and technology meet. We proceed. We already discussed innovation, and we have just talked about technology. And now we proceed to the third one, to creativity and collaboration. Again, let's have a short definition of these two words. What do we mean by creativity and what do we mean by collaboration? What is creativity? It is the use of imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. When we talk of creation, there is something emerging out of nothing. But when it comes to creativity, yes, we could also create something out of nothing, and we could also harness that is already existent. We only have to use our imagination or original ideas in order to produce an artistic work. That is creativity. How about collaboration? Collaboration is the action of working with someone or group to produce or create something. So that's why collaboration, to have support, to have a teamwork, collaboration in communication, even in trust, in motivation, in inspiration, hit the bullseye. Yan na, the success. Bullseye talaga. So that's what we are aiming at. Collaborate in order to become successful. Let's combine creativity. And this is now collaboration. So combining creativity and collaboration will lead to exponential growth. It's not just mere growth, but exponential. And when we talk of exponential, it means rising at a rapid rate. Is there a formula for exponential growth? Yes, there is. You combine creativity and collaboration that will give us exponential growth. Amen. So tingnan po naman natin, no? Paano ito magagawa? How can we join creativity and collaboration and to have creative and collaborative projects? So ang ganda, no? So kaya lang, look how we use word. Like in the Philippine Constitution, we have separation between church and state. I've been reflecting, whoever wrote that law, why did it choose separation? I'm asking, wala na ba silang naisip na salita or word for that matter? Why did they choose separation rather than choosing another word or another term? Tingnan natin. Halimbawa, why not create collaboration between church and state rather than using separation? Why not use collaboration? You create that word, collaborate, or just create collaboration between church and state that will produce creative and collaborative projects. Di ba ang ganda sana? So even the way we choose a word or phrase, it's very important. We have to be creative. Create collaboration between church and state or state and church because it will give exponential result. Kapag positibo ka, adi ang resulta positive. Pag nega ka, ang result nega. Which one are you going to choose? So creative and collaborative projects of church and state, of state and church that will lead to exponential growth. Ito ang ating gusto. You remember, even in our country, there was already PPP before. Before the bill, there was PPPP, meaning private-public partnership. That is a concrete collaboration in a creative way. The government will not spend, but let the private business people to fund a project. But of course, it will take time before it will be turned over to the government. Pero diba, that's creativity. But anyway, kanya-kanya lang naman. Let's talk about expressways, no? Yan na, mga expressways natin, no? Just to give an example, di ba? Yung mga kaya noon, may government, pero meron ding PPP. Halimbawa yung North Luzon Expressway, ha? NLEX, tapos nagkaroon ng SLEX, South Luzon Expressway. And then nadagdagan pa yan, SCTEX, Subic-Clark-Tarlac Expressway. Okay? CLEX, Central Luzon Link Expressway. Meron pang TIPLEX. Mamaya, tingnan natin yung TIPLEX na yan. Actually, that's Tarlac, Pangasinan, La Union Expressway. Ito ano lang muna ito, konting light moment. Have you heard the controversy before? Pero kung hindi, okay lang, wag na lang, no? For the sake of, atin-atin na lang to, para sa Pafte lang naman ito eh. Have you heard of that? Yung Tarlac Expressway, kung mayroon man yan ang sabi nila, they would like to change that Tarlac Expressway. Di, ang ganda, text lang. May nagsasabi, why not name it after the former president? May he rest in peace, no? Bakit ito, noon pa naman, buhay pa ito nung this suggestion happened. Why not make it Noynoy Super Expressway? Or name it after his sister, Chris Aquino Super Expressway. It didn't materialize. Kaya nga chismis lang eh. Kaya controversy lang. Bakit? Not because of a political reason or what. People didn't like the acronym. Talaga. Uulitin ko I'm talking to matured educators. Kasi Noynoy Super Expressway, alam nyo ba ang acronym yon magiging no sex? Ay, hindi yata maganda. Noynoy, di, no. Super Expressway, sex, hindi. Kung Chris Aquino naman, ay sex. Ay, mas lalo. Anyway, hanggang doon na lang po yan. Only for your ears. For your ears only. Well, joking aside, those expressways, and now, meron pa palang nakalusot. May nakalusot naman daw, again, para lang pang chill lang ika nga. Ang nakalusot, Cavitex eh. Ano ibig sabihin ng Cavitex? Mas okay daw yon yung ex mo, kabit. Ay, parang, hindi. Again, joke lang po yan. Erase. Again, joking aside, all those highways and skyways are truly blessings. Bakit? Our travel time is now shortened. Isn't it great? Ang ganda talaga ng collaboration. So there is exponential growth. If we will just have creative and collaborative projects, grabe ang growth natin. Rising at rapid rate. Ito ang kinakailangan. Again, ano ba yung gusto natin? Paano natin ito ma-apply sa education? Paano natin ma-apply ito sa buhay natin? Do we want to have exponential growth. Let's talk about outer space travel. Kaya kung magsasama-sama, maligaya, mayroong rapid development. Ito yung pag-travel naman sa outer space. Before, alam natin ito, going up there, outer space, was purely a US government project with NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. But something happened. So a few years ago, the US government teamed up with private companies. That's why we have now partnership with private company of Jeff Bezos, his Blue Origin. In fact, Blue Origin already sent humans in outer space. Meron na ito ngayon. And now you could become an astronaut if you could go beyond the gravitational force. Wow! At ganun din, the US government partnering with another private company of Elon Musk, his SpaceX. Ganun din, we could collaborate and we will have a positive result. At ito pa yung very interesting daw. Alam niyo po ba yung mga result ngayon ng collaboration? Elon Musk with his SpaceX. You know the travel time from New York to Manila? Using SpaceX, itong kanyang, yung nakikita natin dyan, Starship, it will only take 30 minutes. The 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours travel will be shortened into 30 minutes. What a beautiful project. So, there is creativity, there is collaboration, and look at the result. Be creative, have collaborative projects. Choose collaboration instead of separation. Choose unity rather than division. It is applicable in business. It is also applicable in education or in our daily life as humans living here on earth. There will be potential growth if there will be creative and collaborative projects. And the rapid rate of growth, sobra. It's exponential. Tingnan natin itong learning retention. Let's talk about ngayon naman, purely education. They say if you listen, the retention using only the ears to a lecture, 5%. But if you read a book, it will give you 10% retention. Combining listening and reading, audiovisual, that's 20% retention. Ang galing na improvement. Kaya ako, I really would like to have audiovisual. Pero meron pa. It's not only combining listening and reading. How about combining all? There is a creative collaboration. You include lecture, reading, audiovisual, and then you demonstrate, you discuss, you practice, and you practice and you teach actual teaching. What we learn, we teach. Ano ang result? The same exponential learning, exponential retention. Isn't it great? If we could teach it to our students, it's not only listening, it's not only reading, it's not only combining the two, but adding the other factors, discussion, practice, and you could convince your student. If they understood it, then teach their own classmates, and the retention will be perfected. There will be exponential learning, there will be exponential retention. It's very applicable even in education. This is exponential growth, rising at rapid rate, creative and collaborative projects. Kaya tanong, ano ang gusto mo pang gawin? Ano pa ang gusto kong gawin in my career as an educator? or for me as a priest. That's why I usually use my PowerPoint, and I am not into science. My field is theology, philosophy, but I also enjoy developing uh, my capacity to learn the scientific theories. And I believe that this is also helping me in my life as a religious. If you notice, even in my homily, I start with acetates. Now I'm using, eto na, medyo gumanda na, PowerPoint. In fact, there are other software. Pero, well, okay na ako sa PowerPoint. Alam ko po, in your own field as educators, especially if you will be retiring, then nagkaroon ng pandemic, now everything is online, extra patience. But for the young educators, that's so easy, who had subjects in computer, in technology, pero tayo po, pwede pa rin matuto. So this is the exponential growth. If there is creativity, if there is collaboration, our growth is exponential, rising at rapid rate. Yes to exponential growth to learning. Yes to technology. Yes to innovation. Yes to creativity. Yes to collaboration. Let's apply it. We now come to the last topic. So we have been sharing about innovation, where creativity, collaboration, and technology meet. We started with innovation. I will verbalize what innovation our country needs. I believe that PAFTE will agree with me. I suggest that for the incoming administration, the President-elect BBM and Vice President-elect Sara, the first innovation that I'm suggesting is to increase the budget for education. Well, you know, there was an educational reform that happened years ago. Formerly, there was only one Department of Education, Culture and Sports. And then with the law passed by, written by the late Senator Angara, it became three. So we have the Commission on Higher Education, and then we have the Basic Ed, and we have the TESDA. All the educators in these three branches, we suggest that to increase the budget for education is to increase the salary of teachers and educators. Amen. Siguro naman lahat tayo nagkakaisa dito. Bakit? Aba, kung ibang department natataasan ang education pa kaya? Because in other countries like Singapore, they look at education as a very important progress of nation. Saan ba mag-uumpisa ang progress ng bansa kundi sa edukasyon at sa magiging produkto ng edukasyon? Amen. Anyway, that's just a suggestion, and well, we pray for that. So from innovation, we talk of technology, and we could say that technology is a tool. Yes to technological advancement, but we are reminded there is even more important than technology. The human person, himself, herself. Tayo, mga tao. But again, of course, with creativity and collaboration, connected to my first suggestion, meron pa. Ano naman ang ika-collaborate natin? Paano tayo magiging creative? Again, with PAFTE and Private Education Assistance Committee, this is possible. I personally would like to congratulate PAFTE and the PEAC for having this partnership. If PEAC or Private Education Assistance Committee is helping the private schools and the teachers, why not have a total collaborative project? And what is that? To make the salary of both private and public school teachers the same. Di ba? Same salary for public and private teachers. In a way, it's the duty of the government, or at least, no, na magkaroon to have good products. Eh di sana isipin natin yung pangkahalatan. No more separation, di ba? We go for collaboration and unity. Amen. Again, it's just a suggestion. Okay? So, salamat po sa PAFTE and PEAC. Now, the last is integration. And it's nice to have integration and integral vision. That is very important also. We should look at integral thing, no? Yung kabuuan. As I have said, technology is a great tool. But our main focus is, and our main concern is the integral development of the human person. Bilang tao, hindi lang yan may utak, yan ay may puso, may damdamin, at higit sa lahat, yung kamay. If you notice, I always ask, feel mo? Feel ko. Gets mo? Gets ko. Gawin mo? Gagawin ko. These are the 3 H's. The heart, the mind, and the hand should be integrated. Magkakasama yan. So, how do I define integral? I'm borrowing the words of Ken Wilber, his advocacy, the one who is spearheading the integral thing in education and psychology, in business, in everything. For him, integral means inclusive, whole, comprehensive, balanced, and essential for completeness. With that, yes to integral development. And integral development aims just like that. It wants to present and discuss development in a complete, inclusive, whole, comprehensive, and balanced perspective. What is now a developed integral person? Ito rin po, we have been discussing about innovation, technology, creativity, and collaboration. But may I say this, the developed integral person gives hope and inspiration. Kaya ang lahat ng taong nag-aral at graduates ng Philippine educational system, nagbibigay ng pag-asa, inspirasyon, and that person seeks the truth. Meaning, the developed integral person will never allow fake news and to alter historical facts. You could use technology, social media, to propagate fake news. Don't allow it, because the truly developed integral person will never do it. Go for the truth. And we cannot alter the truth. And the truth is the essence of God. So no one could destroy truth, because truth is the essence of God, and the truth will set us free. Ito ang tunay na edukadong tao. At ito rin ang tunay na edukasyon. Tumututok sa katotohanan. At ano man ang ating paniniwala, meron tayong mga model teachers. And for us Christians, our model teacher, the Good Shepherd, who came not to be served, but to serve. Tunay na guro, tunay na pastol. Tutok sa katotohanan. And with that, our aim is to develop an integral person that can be 3 things: effective leader, creative contributor, and empathic caretaker. Kung ito ang mapuproduce natin na bilang future leaders, the future of our nation, efektibo, alam at may damdamin at talagang tumutulong at pinuno na tutulong sa pagka-guide ng mga kabataan. Creative contributor, empathic caretaker. At ito rin ang aims of education, to develop the limitless inner potential of both the students and the teachers. Napakaganda. Limitless inner potential of all humans, students and teachers, to produce wise, mature, fulfilled citizens. Ang sarap na magkaroon ng ganitong produkto. Wise, mature, fulfilled citizens, and finally, how to create a peaceful world to live in. Napakagandang bansang Pilipinas, punong-puno ng katahimikan, kapayapaan, at punong-puno ng real abundance. Marami pong salamat sa inyong lahat. Thank you and congratulations, PAFTE, the Philippine Association for Teacher Education. Thank you also to the partner of PAFTE, the Private Education Assistance Committee. God bless you more. Maraming salamat po. God bless.
Thank you so much, Reverend Father Glenn, for the enlightening, heartwarming, and inspiring message to keep us through these challenging times. Rest assured that we shall put into practice your favorite line, feel mo, gets mo, gawin mo. I will now read the Certificate of Recognition. The Philippine Association for Teachers and Educators, in partnership with Lorimar Publishing Incorporated, awards this Certificate of Recognition to Reverend Father Glenn Paul M. Gomez in grateful recognition and appreciation for his inspirational message during the 12th Midyear Pafte Convention with the theme Innovation, where collaboration, creativity, and technology meet. May 21, May 20 to 21, 2022 via Microsoft Live, signed Dr. Rita May P. Tagalog, Executive Secretary, and Dr. Brenda P. Corpus, President. Our first speaker for this morning is Dr. Hazel Preclaro Ontenco. Dr. Ontenco specializes in literacy education, specifically in the following areas: developmental reading programs, literacy assessment and instruction, literacy program development, diagnostic teaching of reading, and special education for persons with learning disabilities. Her research interests center on literacy development, assessment and instruction, learning disabilities, literacy tools, materials development, assistive technology for reading and writing, and children's literature. For the last 5 years, she has conducted 10 training seminars, and during the pandemic years of 2020 to 22, she published 3 articles and prepared an instructional video for teachers and parents, all related to the above topics. Dr. Ontenco, who was a University of the Philippines cum laude graduate, a Fulbright scholar at the Teachers College Columbia University, was also a recipient of the 1 UP Professional Chair and Faculty Grant Award, a Gawad Colegio on ICT Integration Award, and Esperanza Bautista English Teaching Award. Ladies and gentlemen, let us attentively listen to the Vice President of the Philippine Dyslexia Foundation Incorporated, who will talk on increasing engagement through creative teaching of literature-based literacy lessons. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Maria Mazel Preclaro Ontenco.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Let me share my presentation. Kindly let me know if you could see it.
We can see it, Professor.
Excellent. Okay, so for this morning, I am going to tap upon my experience as a literacy educator. I have been teaching for quite some time now, and my hope is for all right. My hope, of course, is to be able to, let me just turn off something. There. My hope, of course, is to share with you my experience in teaching creative literature-based lessons. And how do I get my students to be engaged? Let me show you. Okay, so I know that all you teachers have a lot of ideas in your mind. You have been trained, you have been educated in order to teach in classrooms how to read and write in a variety of languages, mother tongue, English, and Filipino. But what I encourage you for today is to have a little more out of the box thinking. Really? With the limiting conditions that we have today, is it still possible to teach in a creative way? Well, let me show you a few things that I try in my classrooms in the primary grades across still the intermediate levels. Okay, now, these are also things that maybe you parents can also appreciate. So thank you very much, Pafte, for your invitation. Okay, so one of the first things that we would like to encourage children to develop is language. And so, not everybody speaks in the language of instruction. So it is helpful to begin with a song. Okay, bakit to okay? Kasi alam na po natin to lahat, di ba? Itong awiting ito. Can you see me? Can everybody see my camera as well? All right, so I'm
Yes.
assuming that you can see me. All right, what do I have here? I have a ukulele. Because I love to teach in a different way or unique way, I have also learned an instrument. So, for example, if I were going to have my kids sing this song in the classroom, paatuhod, balikat ulo, paatuhod, balikat ulo, paatuhod, balikat ulo, parte ng katawan. Nabilib ba kayo na pwede akong mag-ukulele? Di ba isa rin yung forma ng engagement or being involved? Pag nakita nyo na, uy, may ibang kakayanan si teacher, parang gusto nyo akong panoorin, di ba? And what other senses are we tapping? We need to be able to be creative in making sure that our kids not only see what's going on, but they experience it in different ways. What else do I like to do with this song? Okay, minsan pag kinanta na natin to, tapos na siya, di ba? Pero hindi, pwede pa nating paglaruan ito. Minsan, pinapalitan ko, kaya naka-highlight po yung kulay na tuhod, no? Yung kulay ng salitang tuhod. Minsan, pinapalitan ko yung salitang yan. O minsan, nagpa-practice muna ako. Okay, bakit? Gusto ko sanang matutunan muna ng mga bata, di ba? Ang iba't ibang pangalan ng bahagi ng katawan. So, for example, kung ang pagtutok ko po ay balikat, no? Nandito yung mga larawan, paa, tuhod, balikat, ulo. Pero kung papalitan ko yung pangatlong salita, maybe, if I have a beginning reader, nagsisimula pa lang siya magbasa, baka alam niyang basahin isang salita lamang, yung kamay. So, sasabihin namin, sige, awit tayo ha, kanta tayong magkasama. Okay, pwede ring palitan ng siko, at pwede ring palitan ng, ano ba, kilay. Yan. Ang sinasabi ko po ay, paglaruan natin ang mga salitang nasa isang awitin. Pwede nating dagdagan ng iba't ibang salita at paglaruan para natututo sila hindi lamang umawit kung hindi ng bagong salita. So, subukan po natin ha. Paa, tuhod, kuko at ulo. Paa, tuhod, kuko at ulo. Paa, tuhod, kuko at ulo. Parte ng katawan. Ano pa ang maganda dito? Pwede siyang multisensorial. Hindi lang nakikita, hindi lang nadidinig, hindi lang inaawit, pero pwede rin nating ikilos. Paa, hawakan ng paa. Tuhod, hawakan ng tuhod. Kuko, ipakita ang kuko. At hawakan din ang ulo. Paano ko rin siya ginagawang game? O, sundan niyo ako ha. Tignan niyo ako ng mabuti. Gagawin ko ang awiting ito. Paa, tuhod, kuko at ulo. Paa, tuhod, kuko at ulo. Ginaya niyo ba ako? Gustong-gusto to ng mga estudyante ko. Pag, nag-iiba na ako ng hinahawakang parte ng katawan. Teacher, ilong yung hinahawakan mo. Pwede rin po siyang gawing game. So what did I just display? What I was showing was the different ways to reinvent one material. Anong material na yon? Lumang kanta ng paa, tuhod, balikat at ulo. Pero dinagdagan ng musika, dinagdagan ng sariling kakayanan sa pagtugtog, dinagdagan din ng bagong salita, kuko, kamay, kita nyo, starts with the letter K, di ba? Nagtuturo pa ako ng titik. At, syempre, pagturo sa katawan para alam natin ang bahagi na inaaral natin. Okay? So, yan ay isang pamamaraan para i-reinvent. Creativity requires that we are able to reinvent material that is available to us. Now, kilala nyo ba tong awiting to? Madali ba tong tugtugin? Tingnan nyo, ang dali lang ng chords, oh. Diba? O, yan. Ito pa. Bayan ba yun? Kilala nyo ba si Bruno Mars? Dapat kilala nyo si Bruno Mars. Kasi siya yung kumanta ng You Can Count on Me. Okay, paano natin ito gagamitin? Sabi ko sa inyo, di ba? Reinvent. We can have development of vocabulary through songs. How do we do that? Itong awitin na to, di ba may lyrics? Can we help kids represent language? You see the highlighted portions of the text? If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. Yung naka-bold-faced, yung stuck in the middle of the sea. Tapos sail the world to find you. What are we going to do? What we can do is we can change some of the words. Pero before we do that, ano ba tong awitin na to? Let me refresh your memory. If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea. Ay, parang mali yata yung chords ko. In the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. Parang nagkakamali ako ngayon ah. Okay. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Yan. So, did you know? I did this activity with one of my students and we changed the lyrics. She was an upper elementary student na pagod ng mag-aral. Sabi niya, wala po akong inspirasyong mag-aral ng Ingles. So sabi ko, sige, bibigyan kita ng inspirasyon. Hindi lang tayo mag-aaral ng awitin, hindi lang tayo mag-aaral ng Ingles, pero mag-aaral din tayo kung paano tumugtog ng ukulele. Buti na lang may nahiram siyang ukulele. So, we sang her version or her interpretation of the lyrics. She found synonymous phrases for the lines that were bold-faced here. So, ano yung kinanta niya? Okay, try ko ulit ha. Sana hindi ako magkamali. If you ever find yourself in the middle of a problem, I'll go to you to comfort you. Diba? Yeah. So, this is an example of how to use literacy and teach it in a different way, but now tapping music. So, pwede po tayo magkaroon ng programs that are literacy through music. So again, we need to rethink how we teach vocabulary. Are there more interesting opportunities for us to give our students? Okay, next. Ayan, meron din tong. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. Paano niyan inayos? If you're worried and can't help but stay up late, I'll perform a tune to inspire you. O, di ba? So, proud na proud siya kasi siya ang gumawa ng interpretasyon. Siya ang gumawa ng lyrics sa awiting yon. Kaya nakakatuwa na na-inspire ko siya hindi lamang matuto ng Ingles, pero na-inspire ko siyang maging proud sa kanyang sariling gawa. At syempre, pag-perform din niya. Alam niyo ba, gumawa pa kami ng recording ng pagtugtog niya at pag-awit. Tapos nilagay namin sa YouTube. Pero para lang sa pamilya niya. So, naka-perform siya kahit papano. So, that is one unique way to teach vocabulary through songs. Now, there. What else do we need to build? So this is an example of a story, Sadako and 1,000 Paper Cranes by Eleanor Kerr, that I was able to share with third graders. And sometimes, it's not about schema activation. Baka hindi nila alam yung topic. Maybe it's more about schema building. So, dahil ito ay tungkol sa isang batang nasa Japan na naging biktima ng atom bomb explosion. Merong isang parte doon na nagbiro ang tatay niya at hindi nagustuhan ng nanay ng bida ang biro ng tatay niya. Okay, so to understand what jokes are like, okay, I took them through a series of jokes. For example, naisip niyo bang gumamit ng joke in class? Here, what do you call a pig that does karate? The answer, pork chop! O, di ba? Nakakatawa. Sabi ng isang student, 5 stars yan, teacher. Nakakatawa talaga siya. Tapos ito. Why did it take so long for the pirates to learn the alphabet? They got stuck at sea. I think binigyan lang po ng students ko ng 3 stars ang joke na ito. What am I telling you? I'm telling you that we can help our third graders be more engaged if we find material that they enjoy at that age. They love jokes. So we can be creative by using jokes in our teaching. And in this way, build schema. Now remember, what's my objective? My objective is to make sure that they understand that there are nice jokes, but there are not so nice jokes. So let's see. Why did the bike fall over? Anong sagot doon? Because it was too tired. Ha! Nakakatawa ba? Binigyan din po ng 5 stars ng mga mag-aaral ko po ito. Okay, but how about this joke? Nako, a lot of Filipinos tend to do this to their relatives and friends. Diba? They always say this. Uy, nabawasan ka ng timbang ah. Hey, you finally lost some weight. If somebody is sick and you say that joke, is that a funny joke? Not at all. And so my students gave this joke 0 stars. At actually, ganun yung biro ng tatay sa kwento. Kaya sabi ng nanay, that's not nice. It's not nice to say. So, the main character in the story, Sadako, was in the hospital when her father said that line. And I think that after this experience, my students will understand what good jokes are and what not so nice jokes are. So what will they do? They'll avoid jokes that hurt feelings. Okay? So what am I saying? We can use jokes. There are other ways to engage kids too. Now, because we are teachers, I know that you have already encountered the giving tree. The giving tree is about a tree and a boy. The tree gave everything to this little boy. The boy asked for the leaves and got it to make a crown. The boy asked for apples and he was able to sell it so that he can travel the world. The little boy asked the tree for branches and the trunk so that he could build a boat and a house for his family. And the tree gave that as well. And finally, when it was just a small stump, The tree was approached by the boy who had become an old man. And the boy said, I don't need much anymore. Just a place to sit. I'm tired. And so the tree, as an old stump, let the old man sit. It's a touching story, and there are several options by which we can explore this touching story. This is called a character chart. What I'd like for you to remember is that we don't just read stories. We don't just remember the information that we find there, but we also deepen our comprehension. Okay? We deepen our comprehension of the text. How? If we're able to look at different aspects of the literature piece. For example, if we know what the character chart is, maybe we can explore the characters and say what their traits are. The tree is giving, but the boy is selfish. We can also talk about the character's actions. The boy kept on taking, and the tree kept on giving. We can talk about the character's conversations. What did the little boy always say? I want, I need, can you give me some? But what did the tree always say? Come, boy, come. How about the character's thoughts? Did they like what happened to each of them in this relationship? So we can use engagement activities like this to help deepen our comprehension. We look at, wait, how did the characters spend time together? How did they develop their relationship? But not only are we going to look at their relationship, how about you? Are you able to think of somebody special? Do you know how much you spend time? How much time you spend with that somebody special? Do you still spend time with that somebody special? Because part of understanding the literature means understanding the feelings and conflict and issues and concerns that the characters are undergoing. The tree was feeling like the little boy didn't have time for her. How about your loved one? Is your loved one thinking that too? We can increase engagement by being creative enough to see the parallelism between the character's life and our lives. And how do we make that even more obvious? By using engagement activities like this. Which events show that the tree brought the boy joy? Which events were able to show that the boy brought the tree joy? But let's take it a step further. Which events remind you of how you brought someone joy? Or maybe you could think about, how has someone brought you joy? Increasing comprehension means not only understanding the text, but using the text to understand our lives. And that's how we get creative. We go beyond. How about the characters? What did they repeatedly say to each other? The boy said, I want, I need. Can you give me? How about your special someone? Is your special someone your daughter or your son? Do they always say, I want and I need? Or is your special someone like the giving tree? Come, have this. And have you been taking a lot from that special someone? Again, parallelism. Not only are we looking at traits and words, okay, but we're also looking at parallelisms in terms of roles. Which character did you identify with? If we design activities that zero in on these thoughts and ideas, then this is a creative way to create a takeoff point for discussion. Look here. You can also make an activity that looks like a dialogue. What did the tree say? Come, you will be happy. What did the boy say? I need money, a house, and a boat. Is that conversation much like your conversations with your special someone? Can you make your own comic strip? Coming up with creative drawing and writing activities is another way to engage our learners. They can be more creative if rather than just always asking questions and waiting for them to be answered, we can give them ways to draw, to write, to create artwork that will help them remember the information and maybe process it or take some time to think about it a little. Another way is to transform such dialogue into interviews. This is an example of an interview that one of my students conducted. He pretended that he was the interviewer of a magazine, and he was interviewing one of the characters in Lois Lowry's The Giver, Jonas. And he was the one who wrote the dialogue for both sides of the interview. He was a fifth grader, and he tried to imagine what that conversation was like between the characters. So, we can also come up with a reporter activity where we have our students try to create questions. As you can see, it's not just about making a comic strip. It's about asking questions and answering those questions. How many times do we have kids really just answer questions and we forget to actually have them create questions? Isn't that part of being creative? Being able to know the kind of information you need and come up with interesting questions to be answered? I think you get the drift. Let's take a look at the next one. When we want them to comprehend, another way to deepen comprehension is to have them come up with pictures. This is an example of an activity that I had called a photo dump. I asked my students to create a screenshot of the photo that they thought was most striking in the story The Missing Piece and The Missing Piece Meets the Big O, also by Shel Silverstein. And they took various pictures. Some even submitted more than one. Okay, this is my example. Okay, The Missing Piece is about a piece who is looking for something to complete him. Okay, so if I were to look at one of the pages, this is the triangle or the piece trying to find its way in order to reinvent itself. So this triangle was trying to roll and become a circle. Wow, what a very important part in the story. Why? Because here, the piece or the character tried to take action and to recreate him or herself into who she needs to be. Did my other students come up with their own pictures of what struck them? Yes, they did, and they explained why. A Padlet is like a bulletin board online. It allows you not just to post your picture, but to explain. What else does it allow you to do? It allows you to comment on all the other posts. So, if you want an online bulletin board like this, you can look it up. Go and search for padlet.com. You know what I can also do with this? I can print it out as a magazine. And it shows all the different photo dumps that we've done, given all the stories that we encountered. O, diba? That is a creative way of appreciating literature. So, let's take a look at other options. We can also, again, remember to make activities that require us to look at connections. This is a literary sociogram. And look, using PowerPoint, I was able to redraw the literary sociogram of the book Number the Stars. The central character is Anne-Marie, and there are two circles that she has. The circle of her family, who are very close to her, and the circle of her friend, who is also very close to her. The setting is during World War II, and Anne-Marie is a citizen of Denmark, but she's concerned about her friend Ellen, who is a Jew and is being persecuted by the Germans. So it's important for us to see how Anne-Marie values her family but has the same designated value with Ellen as her friend. Ellen is close to her and is very much like family. So a sociogram laying out the relationships in a story can also be an option, right? We can make relationships more concrete by creating relationship circles or sociograms like this. Naisip niyo na ba kung paano niyo magagamit ito sa mga lesson ninyo? Here's another option. There is what we call the agony column. We go back to the story of the giver. The giver is Jonas living in a dystopian society. He is one of the citizens there, and he's 12 years old. And little by little, he's realizing that the community that he's living in is so controlled that they control the weather. Walang iba't ibang klima. There is only one type of weather para wala daw problema sa pagpapatubo ng pananim. Okay, what else? They all have the same color. Wala pong maitim, wala pong maputi, wala pong mistisahin. Lahat ay pare-parehong kulay para wala raw difference. Okay, ano pa? Parang ang hirap ng pare-pareho ang buhay, no? Mahirapan ata ako kung lahat na lang ng bagay na nakita ko ay pare-pareho. At alam niyo ba na walang kulay sa community ni Jonas? Parang ang daming kailangang pag-isipan. So here's an example of an agony column. Nagsulat ang isang estudyante ng pag-iisip o pagmumuni-muni ng isang bata. Dear Diary, I just joined this community and this is what I think of it. An agony column is an opportunity to pretend right. Pretend right what? To pretend that you are writing a diary entry, a letter of complaint, a petition. It's not only deepening the way you understand how the character sees what's going on, but it also makes you reflect on what you think about your life and society. Ano pang options? Alam niyo ba na pwede rin po tayong magpalalim ng pag-unawa through art? Because there are books that show visual imagery. Here is what I did. Yung kwento kanina na Number the Stars about Anne-Marie and her friend Ellen, who is a Jew, I asked them to take down descriptive sentences. And when I asked my students to write down descriptive sentences, I showed them how they can illustrate those descriptions. What are we doing here? We're showing that to understand the story, we need to take notice of the images that the authors create. Visual imagery na pala ang lesson. But how do we want them to enjoy that? We make them draw. This is a sketch to stretch activity. So, this is what they tried. Medyo stick figure, no? Yung drawing ng isa kong estudyante. Pero ano bang mahalaga rin dito? Di ba nakahanap siya ng mga descriptive sentences o paglalarawan ng setting sa kwento? I think that finding those sentences is half the battle or even 75% of the battle. Yung 25%, we just allow for some creativity and some other way to present information. Minsan, ang hirap naman ng puro sulat, puro kopya, puro type. Baka gusto rin nila mag-drawing. So, for example, here, if I look at number 7, or say There's a part here that talks about the moon. And here, there is a drawing of the moon. He did try to illustrate what he read. How about here? I have two other attempts. There is one who numbered every drawing that she made so that I can see that yes, she really did try to illustrate each detail found in the book. How about this one? Kinulayan pa niya. Sometimes, kids actually exhibit more agency. Not only did they illustrate the story, but they even included some color. Not only that, there was one who felt worried that hindi siguro siya makakadrawing, so naghanap siya ng larawan. Oh, di ba creative? All we need is to provide our students the opportunity to try and make sense of what is presented to them in a different way. And this is comprehending texts through art. I also use this for another book called Matilda. Napanood niyo po ba yung pelikula na yon? Matilda is a Roald Dahl chapter book. It's about a little girl who had really tough parents who didn't care about her, but had a teacher who loved her and cared for her. This activity is an example of how we try to imagine Roald Dahl's description of the teacher's cottage, Miss Honey's cottage. I showed them copies of the text that they can illustrate, and this is what they drew. That's the first one. This is the second one. And this is the third one. They were able to create the path. They were able to document the fence. They were able to show how small the cottage was and how it was surrounded by shrubs and trees. So again, what are we teaching our students? We are teaching them to honor the author's work. By what? Illustrating descriptive statements. And so, this is comprehending text through art. Pwede pala, no? Kung kanina, comprehending text through music. Ito naman, no? Comprehending text through art. But not only are we going to make sociograms and charts, this particular chart tried to document the villain in the story of Matilda. This is Miss Trunchbull, and all of her negative traits were enumerated here. How did I want to show you the creativity of my class? I tried to use this chart that looked at all of the not nice things that Miss Trunchbull did to her kids, such as pull their hair or maybe punish them and put them in a cupboard. Okay, I had them take a look at children's rights. If that teacher was doing things that teachers shouldn't do, how will kids know if their rights are being violated? I had them look through the kiddie version of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. So what am I saying? Not only am I tapping my creativity in terms of my musical ability, or my creativity in terms of my ability to draw and have kids draw, but I also need to tap on my ability to find resources that are relevant for my students. And in this case, I think every child in the intermediate grade should understand their rights. Kahit naman nasa primary grade, di ba? Ini-introduce o ipinakikilala na natin sa kanila na mahalaga ang karapatan. So, this is an example of being creative enough to use real world information and incorporate it in literacy learning. Eh di makabuluhan ang pag-aaral, di ba? Okay. This is an example naman of using a story map. So again, going back to the giver and creating a community, we drew a map so that we could see what were the important sections of that community. Okay, we did that also for a story in the intermediate grade called Because of Winn-Dixie. And you know what? I discovered that Kate DiCamillo was so innovative because every chapter she was able to introduce a new setting in the community that the story took place in. So the first setting, it was actually the grocery store. The second setting was actually their trailer house, their trailer park house. The third setting was the chapel. The fourth setting was the museum, all in the town of Naomi, Florida. Ang galing din pala ng ibang writers, no? Kailangan lang i-recognize natin na meron pala silang Easter eggs, di ba? Or little secrets in their stories to help us be intrigued and to create interesting maps for us to identify the setting and identify important characters. What else do we have here? We also have chapters that can be turned into newspapers. So I turned some of the chapters in the Because of Winn-Dixie chapter book into newspapers. One chapter, one news article. Pwede pala gumawa ng newspaper? Oo, pwede tayo gumawa ng pahayagan. We can have our kids author articles that take down information or note details and create summaries. O, diba? Pwede naman pala. Na-try nyo na ba gumawa ng pahayagan? Masaya yan. It even summarizes the whole chapter book. What else? Sa writing naman. In writing, you can try different forms of writing. So what do I love? Again, going back to Sadako, about the girl in Japan who was sick. Yeah, she, because she is from Japan, it would be interesting for us to collaboratively write a Japanese poem called a haiku. So what I did is we did this collaboratively. I showed them an example of a haiku. I showed them the requirements of how to make a haiku. And then we made a haiku together. What did we talk about? One of the themes of the story was about friendship. And so we talked about the main character's friendship with her best friend, Chizuko. And here is the haiku they made. You are a nice friend. 5 syllables. You made me a paper crane. There, 7. Thank you, Chizuko. 5. Okay? Did they do this on their own? Yes, they did. Hindi ko lang pumahanap yung ginawa nila on their own. But yes, they had a lot of haikus that they shared with me based on this story and based on their own friends in the real world. Okay, what else is interesting? Aha! So, when we look at chapter books, we can also look at how teachers, like here in Miss Daisy is Crazy, can have really interesting traits. Like they can be fun people too. And because they can be fun people, I had the kids try to tell me what are the fun traits and characteristics that their teachers have. And we did this collaboratively. And you know what they did later on? They wrote about their dreams, not only about the traits that they want from their teacher, but also their dreams in terms of the kind of school that they would like and the kinds of rooms that they want to have there. So, pwede siya mag-branch out into different kinds of creative writing. Look, oh, what did they write? They wanted indoor garden in their school. Diba okay din yun? In the real world, are those valid suggestions? Yes. This one wants a music room. Bakit? Gusto niya mag-piano. Is it interesting for him to even think that he can play piano in the middle of the day at school? Oo, di ba? I think we need to be creative about not only how we understand stories and develop writing, but how we live our lives. And also, gusto niya ng ice skating rink. Parang imposible yata yon. Pero ang interesting dito, yung pottery room. So, maybe they're also developing agency in terms of can they suggest to their principal na baka naman they can try pottery? Di ba pwede naman? Practical arts teachers, unite! And maybe pwede rin magkaroon ng isang lugar na they can play like a treehouse. So, all of these came from kids. So what am I saying? If we allow them to be creative, then they can bring this creativity not just in our literature classes, but into the real world. In developing writing, because of Winn-Dixie also provided an opportunity for kids to find the different details about a character in the story. In this case, 10 things that she wants to know about her mom. The main character is an orphan, meaning that her mom left her. And so this is her wish list of things she wanted to know about her mom. What I did was I used Google Docs and had my students write 10 things that they know about their mom or their dad, whatever the case may be. And what was exciting here was that from the literature identifying details about the character's mom, they were able to identify character traits of their mom and dad, and they were able to come up with drafts. First draft, second draft, and third draft in order for them to write their paragraph about their mom. So at this point, I think my son was part of the class. And so he wrote something that he knew about me. O, di ba? Kinilig ako bilang teacher at magulang. But I had a student that I had to be flexible with. Not only did she write 10 things about her mom, but she actually looked at the similarities and differences between her and her mom. Aba, ibang skill set na yan, di ba? And so what I'm saying is that we need to be flexible in terms of our outcomes. Are there kids who are showing potential already to do other things? Maybe go beyond what we've said in our course guide or in our unit for the quarter. Okay. And finally, there is also other ways for us to help kids appreciate the contents of text, but this time maybe to remember information. And so I end my presentation with a performance strategy. I have again 2 songs, The Water Cycle and The Continents. After you listen to this song, you will never forget the information in front of you. So to remember the water cycle, we can sing evaporation, condensation, precipitation in my mind, evaporation, the water cycle, and it happens all the time. O, hindi nila makakalimutan, di ba? E, paano yung continents? Alam ko naman teach yung water cycle yung continents. Naalala mo ba? There are 7 continents, Europe, Asia, Africa, North and South America, Antarctica, Australia. And that way, matatandaan nyo na ang kontinente natin sa mundo. So to be creative, what do we need? Knowledge. We need our knowledge as literacy teachers, and we need to be able to convert that with different ways of remembering. Flexibility is also important so that when we choose different ways of remembering, we can choose the different senses that we have. Are we tapping the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic? Maybe there are different platforms and formats to do that. But we also need to give ourselves room to innovate. What are you ready to try? So let's be brave, but remember, not without substance. Mag-aral, magsaliksik, and then don't be afraid to learn and try. So that said, maraming salamat po for inviting me to your occasion. Salamat, Pafte. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much, Professor Ongtenko, for taking us to this journey of creative teaching ideas in the field of literature. We have allotted 10 minutes for the open forum. May I call on Dr. Greg Malihan to facilitate and organize the questions. Dr. Malihan?
Hello, ma'am. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Clotty. We would like to thank, of course, our very insightful and Professor Ongtenko for that very insightful presentation. So here's the first question po. Ma'am, how do we promote literacy engagement among children with special needs? Professor?
Okay. For children with special needs, maybe specifically those who might be a little scared already of reading material, we might want to first develop in them a genuine love for reading. So how do we do that? We choose quality, high quality books, and we read these storybooks with them. And when they are able to read a little bit, then we read collaboratively so that they can enjoy high quality literature, but with the guidance of the teacher. And when they can read on their own, we suggest and provide stories and books that they can read during their free time. Now, for those who have disabilities other than learning disabilities, so for those who might have difficulty hearing, then we might show pictures, wordless picture books, and accompany that with sign. Kasi meron din naman po, yes? So that they can enjoy stories as well. Kahit naman may text na picture storybook, we can sign those information if they cannot read it yet. Pag blind naman po, di ba po, we can also find ways to convert the text into braille. Kung magaling ho kayo na gumawa ng ganong material, then we can also come up with translations, books, or versions that are appropriate for those with disabilities. For those with intellectual disabilities, you really have to show enjoyment of the text and show simple story plots lang muna. Wag po i-pressure. And when we find engaging, interesting material, like what I showed you, parang merong mga comic strip, di ba? Merong mga engaging discussions and conversations, or pictures, or funny storylines, or maybe even drama moments, di ba? Para maantig ang kanilang damdamin. If we pick high quality texts, then they will want to listen to stories and maybe even read them. Kailangan maganda ang pagpili, both foreign and local.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that question, for that answer. For our next question from Crisanto A. Daing, Our Lady of Fatima University. Ma'am, I would like to commend your innovative and scholarly talk. I just want to ask this question. Given the nature of the learners we have today, what challenges in teaching literacy lessons, and how do we address them? Thank you, po. So that's from one of our participants, ma'am.
I have assessed children from primary level to secondary level. And yes, there are challenges across all the grade levels, okay? But not naman po insurmountable. What we need to do is to find ways to address needs per grade level. So for example, what might the challenges be for the primary level students? There aren't many books that they can actually access. So digitizing books is important. What else? Presenting the books in presentations and talking through each page with them is important at the primary level. Kasi nga hindi pa nila masyadong kayang unawain o intindihin na mag-isa. That doesn't mean you dictate everything and spoon feed. You can ask them what they see, called a picture walkthrough. And when they don't have the words, you help them label what they see. Paano naman sa intermediate grade level? Kailangan ng graphic organizers or ways of organizing information. Do you need a character profile chart? Do you need a Venn diagram? Do you need a table? If we teach them how to be, say, sensitive to what they're going to look at. Kunyari, ang kwento natin ay tungkol kay ang kwento natin ay tungkol kay Sadako and tungkol sa nakilala niya sa libro na si Kenji. They are two different characters. If you tell your students, let's use the Venn diagram and we shall compare these two characters, then while they're reading collaboratively, part by part, nag-round robin reading kayo in class, then they can be taking notes on their notebooks, on their sheets, on their modules, in their Venn diagram. How about sa secondary level? Sa secondary level po, marami po ang nahihirapang mag-decode. So, kailangan pumili tayo ng teksto for two things, okay? Dahil nasa sekundarya na sila, no? Antas na sekundarya, kailangan nating magbasa ng teksto na at level sa kanila, na naiintindihan nila para umusad ang pag-unawa at lumalim ang diskusyon. Just because they can't decode, it doesn't mean we cannot give them appropriate level information. Okay? So, pili tayo ng material na nababagay sa curriculum natin, pero kailangan rin nilang unawain at their age and grade level. Pero kung poor decoder sila or nahihirapang magbasa, then we can find related material that is shorter, that can help supplement their understanding of the text. For example, I'll give you an example. Kunyari, pinagbabasa natin sila ng Number the Stars. Number the Stars ay tungkol sa World War II. Tungkol sa batang si Anne-Marie at may kaibigan siyang Jewish na kaibigan na, syempre, di ba, hinahabol ng Germans. So, let's say that you're going to have them read that material pero hindi pa nila kaya yung basahin. You can read the chapters to them, but you can have another text, expository text, na mas simple about World War II na pwede nilang basahin. You can use literature and expository text together for secondary learners. Pero simple lang ang pagpapabasa at pagpapasulat. What I'm saying is that today, we cannot expect that at the secondary level, wala pong nagsistruggle. Meron po talaga, kahit decoding and spelling. So we need to give them material that they can read, material that is predictable. Does that mean we have to rewrite material? Yes. That is something that we need to make available. But again, like I said, you cannot be creative without substance. Dapat alam mo yung grammar mo kung magsusulat ka para sa bata. Okay? So, pool yan of skills and collaborative effort ng departments. Alright?
Thank you, ma'am, for your inspiring sharing. I hope our participants learned from you this morning. For those who posted their questions on the chat box, we will be sending your questions to Professor Ongtenko, and then later on, maybe we can post this on our website and our Facebook page. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malihan. Thank you very much. May I ask Dr. Antenko to leave her camera on for the awarding of certificates? May I call on Dr. Corpus and Dr. Tagalog to award the certificate of recognition. The certificate of recognition reads, the Philippine Association for Teachers and Educators, in partnership with Lorimar Publishing Incorporated, awards this certificate of recognition to Professor Maria Nazel Reclaro Ontenco in grateful recognition and appreciation for her lofty thoughts, brilliant ideas, and rich experiences shared as resource speaker on the topic, increasing engagement through creative teaching of literature-based literacy lessons during the 12th Midyear Pafte Convention with the theme, Innovation, where collaboration, creativity, and technology meet. May 20 to 21, 2022, via Microsoft Live, signed Dr. Rita May Tagalog, Executive Secretary, and Dr. Brenda B. Corpus, President. Thank you. Thank you very much again, Dr. Antenko.
Thank you.
And now, it's raffle time. May we request our technical consultant, Ms. Maria Rodora Santos, President and Chief Executive Officer of Amicus Koi Solutions Incorporated, to assist in drawing our winners virtually. In the tradition of sharing to foster fun and excitement in Pafte conventions, our partner, Lorimar Publishing, led by our dear President, Mr. Ronnie Martinez, publisher of our Project Write books and our sponsor for this national and international convention, has donated prizes for one winner of 1,000 pesos each for every region. May I now call on Ms. Rodora Santos, who will use the randomizer for this raffle draw. We will use the randomizer where all the registered participants are automatically included. Dr. Santos?
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, everybody. So the raffle winner draws will be taken. We will be using our randomizer, using our Microsoft Excel file, and all the winners will be sent over through the email. So we will first draw Region 2 for Cagayan Valley. So we have 77 participants from our Region 2. And the first draw will be, so everybody's name will be here. So we'll pick one. The first lucky winner is from Cagayan State University, Catherine Bungag Karugui, I beg your pardon, Karuguian. So it is Miss Catherine Bungag Karugian from Cagayan State University. Congratulations. Clotty, which one's the next one?
The next one will come from Region 5.
From Region 5. So from Region 5, we have 100 participants, and we are choosing one. And the first winner from Region 5 is from, what is this? Philjean Shane Tan from DEBS MSAT. I guess that's a school. So Philjean Shane Tan. Congratulations. And the next region?
And the last one for this morning will be Region 7, Central Visayas.
Region 7. So from Region 7, we have 545 participants. That's a lot. And so let's choose. And the winner from our Region 7 is from University of San Jose, Recoletos, Rex Rieta Villaveles. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Doris. The winners will receive a notification from us, from the national@pafte.org. You will be notified through the email that you have provided during the registration. Winners will need to send an email confirmation to national@pafte.org about their preferred transmittal, either by GCash or bank transfer deposit. Again, congratulations to the first batch of raffle winners. We shall now have a few minutes break for lunch and a little bit of rest. Please be back by 1 p.m. Thank you very much.